Chris, how are you? Laurel, how are you? I'm going to talk about some personal things here first. So feel free to join me.
Cool. Okay.
Hey, I'm going to chit chat with Laurel first. So if you could make sure she's with me. Sorry. Well, that was rude. Me yawning with my big ass mouth open. That was also rude. Me saying big ass mouth. I'm cold in here. It's cold in the studio. It's hot outside, I'm told. I have not been outside today. I'm frustrated with technology today. I'm having technology issues and I'm frustrated. From the moment I woke up, I've had nonstop tech issues all day today and I'm very frustrated. And I can't decide if I'm hot or if I'm cold. This is the hell that is my life. Man, I'm not going to lie. I'm a little frustrated today, not just because
Goodness gracious. Oh, goodness. Oh. Adulting is hard. Yes. What did you do?
Of course, is the tactic when someone tries to send you an email that that has a link in it that has, poison attached to it, or some sort of virus or something like that, or some sort of, software program that'll infiltrate your system and steal everything or lock everything up or whatever. Well, last week I got an email from our immediate supervisor, Keith. And it was like a spreadsheet. And it was like, here, Joe, I need you to look over this spreadsheet. And it's from Keith. It's got Keith's email. And I didn't think twice about it. So I clicked on it. I should have known that it was a spreadsheet, and there's no way it would come from Keith because I don't think Keith knows how to use spreadsheets. Well, and for that matter, neither do I. I have never used a spreadsheet in my life. And I hate when people email me spreadsheets. I'm like, I don't know how to read this. So I clicked on the link that I thought was from Keith. Come to find out, it wasn't from Keith, and it was. And I'm curious if anybody's companies do this. Does anybody's employer test you? Is it just us? But our employers send us test emails to test us to see if we're going to click on it or not. And if you don't click on it and you report it as a phishing email, a phishing email, then you get a congratulations, a little pop-up congratulations. But if you do click on the link and you don't report it as phishing, which is what I did, you get an immediate prompt saying, no, bonehead, that's not right. That was a phishing test and you failed. And I didn't realize that if you fail the phishing test, you have to take a class. So now I got this email from work, and it says, Dear Joe, it's work here. It doesn't actually say it's work here. Dear Joe, it's work here. You have been assigned the following training item, the 2022 Social Engineering Red Flags. First of all, it's off by a year already. I don't know if they know that. But Social Engineering Red Flags. Protecting you from cyber threats is everybody's business, with cyber threats, including phishing, continue to rise, yada, 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 blah, 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 blah. So the next step for the manager is to have a verbal conversation with me, which my boss did. He walked past me and said, what did you click? And I said, I have no idea what you're talking about. He goes, you clicked something in the email and it was spam. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I did that last week. And I said, why are you telling me this now? He says, because we have a new email about it. I'm like, well, I'm not clicking on that email. That's for sure. I'm going to report. So it's got a link in it. It's got a link to launch the training so I don't make those mistakes again. I'm going to report the whole email as a phishing email.
That'll go well.
I'm not clicking on that link because I don't want to get reported for this. Let me see. We read some of the comments here. I used to test my users. I'm too busy for that. Someone says, yeah, we get those at work all the time. Yeah. And I have never failed a phishing test before. This is my first time ever.
You know what I do? Honestly, if I'm not sure, I ignore it. And I'm like, if it's important, they'll send me a second email.
Yeah.
Like there's like something that's due, if your yearly goals, I'm like, they'll remind me if it's actually not phishing. So
I'm going to absolutely follow your direction on this, Laurel. I'm going to stop clicking on everything from now on. And this comes on the same day that I botched evidently either my Sam's Club membership and my bank card. So now everything that I have auto paid from that bank card is going to have to be re-inputted. I'm going to have to re-input. I'm going to have to remember all my passwords for all of the different accounts that are on auto pay from that card. And I'm going to, so this has been a technologically headachy day for me today. So that's where I am. Hi, did you guys have a good weekend? Did you have Laurel, anything special the weekend? Did you have fun?
I went to Universal for the first time in like forever.
And how was that?
It was great. I rode Hagrid's finally, and that was super duper duper cool. And it was great, but it was hot. So, I was tired. I fell asleep very quickly.
I went to see Guardians of the Galaxy 3 with my sons.
So, over the weekend, I saw they're like animal lovers beware. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is super traumatizing.
I saw an article about
Yeah.
PETA today relating to Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay, and were you traumatized?
No.
I said it to my husband, and he's
No.
like, "There's CGI." I'm like, "I know, but."
No.
So
No, I was not. I'm not easily traumatized. And B, honestly, the movie just had me so bored that I couldn't.
Really?
I couldn't get into it. And I got to tell you, and Laurel, you know this. I've been the biggest Marvel fan since the original Iron Man came out, and all the way through Endgame. And aside from a couple of the Spider-Man flicks, every Marvel movie since then, in my opinion, has been terrible. And Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was similarly just terrible. Or I'm outgrowing the genre. I'm not sure which. Because I remember when I was a kid and I wanted to go see movies all the time. And my parents never went to movies. And I'm like, is it just that old people don't like movies? Is that what it is? And then I'm thinking, have I hit that category where I just don't like movies? And I don't think that's the case because I love cinema. I mean, I studied it in college. I am a cinema fanatic. I love film. I love old films. I love not so old films. I love brand new films, but there's just so much crap, so many bad films these days that I just can't stomach it. And then, of course, as soon as the film ends and we sit through the two post-credit scenes, yes, there are two post-credit scenes. But after I sit through it, one of my teenagers says, "Oh my gosh, that was so great. That was such a great movie." And then I don't want to rain on the parade and say, "Oh, really? I hated it." So I hope my kids aren't listening right now because I told them I really enjoyed it as well. They don't listen. I'm not even sure they know I'm on the radio, to be honest with you. So, yeah, I don't think they know.
I heard it was like darker and didn't have all the catchy just for laugh jokes.
I did not laugh one time for the entire movie.
Wow.
And the animal stuff is all about Rocket, how Rocket was made. These were flashback
Right.
scenes about how Rocket the raccoon was made. And it was sad. I mean, it was kind of sad because while we don't like adult raccoons, baby raccoons are adorable, right? Can we all agree that baby raccoons are adorable? And Rocket the raccoon was a baby raccoon first when his torturing got started, when they started doing experiments on animals. And then there's I don't think these are real big spoilers. I don't think these are spoilers because they're in every newspaper article and stuff. But whoever's doing the experimentation on Rocket the raccoon is also doing experiments on other animals as well. And so there's like a walrus, there's an otter that has like artificial arms. There's a walrus in a wheelchair. And there's all these other animals. They all talk, by the way, which is, kind of cool. I don't know what kind of experimentation they did to get animals to talk, but they all talk. But otherwise, if I had never seen that movie, it would not have bothered me in any way. And if I never see another Marvel movie again for the rest of my life, I won't know, because I hope they get better, because this was terrible. What's the next Marvel movie? Do you know? I feel like it should be a Spider-Man movie.
No, isn't there another Ant-Man coming out or something?
We just had one.
Okay, I don't know. I've fallen off.
Yeah.
I've honestly fallen off.
And honestly, the last Ant-Man and Quantumania really wasn't worth seeing. And now the guy that played Kang the Destroyer, or whatever he is, that actor, Jonathan Majors, may not get to play Kang or any other character ever again if he's in jail, because he kind of got Me Too'd. He may or may not be a bad guy, but he was Hollywood's biggest up and coming actor. He was suddenly in everything. This guy, Jonathan Majors, he was in that last boxing movie with the guy from The Thing, not Sylvester Stallone, but the guy that Stallone fought, Creed. So he was in the last Creed movie as the opponent against the young Creed, the not Apollo, but Cassius or whatever his name is. I don't know what his name is. But he was a real big up-and-coming actor, and now he's accused of rape and assault and stuff, and now they're not going to be able to cast him in anything. He had the fastest rise and fall in Hollywood in recent years, that's for sure. Coming up in a few minutes, Governor DeSantis, I thought, made a brilliant comment over the weekend when he was asked about a new law here in Florida that will not allow doctors to perform sex change surgeries. And the way DeSantis puts that in a completely different light, I thought was absolutely brilliant the way that he did that. And we'll get into that coming up in a few minutes as well. Plus, there was an armed robbery at a nursery. Not a nursing home and not a nursery where children are, but a nursery where they have plants. There was an armed robbery at a nursery in Winter Garden Saturday early in the morning. So late Friday night, early Saturday morning. And I've been reading all of these stories about this armed robbery at a nursery, and there's just one thing that just doesn't add up when it comes to an armed robbery at a nursery, and I will break that down for you coming up next. Stay right where you are.
Now, WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Triple Team Traffic.
Lots of brake lights on I-4 westbound from Princeton onto the 408, then Sand Lake to 535 and 192 into Champions Gate. Eastbound is bumper to bumper past the Disney exits, 528 to Sand Lake. You're going to tap the brakes again approaching the Turnpike from Parr to Lee, and then 46A to the bridge. This report sponsored by Daytona Beach. Just a short drive away, Daytona Beach offers 23 miles of pristine sands, gentle waves, and upscale accommodations, inviting you to beach on. Plan your trip today at DaytonaBeach.com. From the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
Closing arguments went underway today in the civil rape and defamation trial against former President Trump. Trump decided not to testify in the trial and claims writer E. Jean Carroll made up the story to sell copies of her book. Carroll is seeking millions of dollars in punitive and compensatory damages. A risk of severe thunderstorms over part of the middle of Mississippi Valley today. This comes after a number of tornadoes were reported throughout the weekend in western Minnesota, southern Indiana, and northern Missouri. Parts of Missouri and Ohio could see heavy rainfall and heavy winds today. Fire crews on the scene of a Shell chemical plant outside of Houston. A massive fire broke out there Friday afternoon, sending plumes of thick black smoke into the air. The situation looked to be under control by Saturday morning, but the fire later reignited and was still burning on Sunday. Somebody unplugged my camera. And when they do that, all the settings and stuff get reset. So now I think my sounds sound funny and I have to fix my... Why do people touch stuff? Right? Tell them not to touch stuff. Like Joe shouldn't touch phishing emails. People shouldn't unplug things around here.
Can you guys see this? Can you make this out? Look yummy.
Eating that.
It doesn't even look appetizing, does it? Like it looks like the June bug is missing a couple legs.
Like at least put some, I don't know, sprinkle some salt on it or something, right? But
it does have salt on it.
Oh, no.
It does. It says seasoned with salt. Ready to eat June beetles seasoned with salt.
Nope. Those are all for you, bud.
You know I have to try one now, right? I mean, I have no choice.
There you go. Do it on the stream.
Yeah, Michael, that's the exact same reason why I'm going to eat them. I just got to figure out before I eat them. I just got to figure out how I want to set this up. I mean, do I want to do it live on the air here, or do I want to do it on video, pre-recorded, and then release a edited video? I don't know what to do. I just reported that email as a phishing alert.
Was it one or was it a normal one?
I don't know. They just deleted it. So now it's not there anymore. They'll probably send it back to me with the no idiot.
You'd be like, what? I learned my lesson. Everything is phishing.
That's
everything
right.
is phishing.
I'm going to click everything is phishing. So then I ended up canceling my credit card, and I didn't need to, it seems. Son of a gun. I'm so griped. I used to think that was a cuss word when I was a kid. Gripe.
Really?
I don't know why. Oh, look, it says, thank you for reporting phishing. This email was found to be clean.
You think?
Jerks.
So it probably said the wrong year because it's probably the class we had to take last year, and now you have to retake it because apparently you weren't paying attention. So that's why it says last year's thing on it.
And evidently you get 5 chances to get it wrong. And on the 5th one, you're out.
That's a lot of dumb mistakes they're allowing you to make. So,
Well, I've only made one dumb mistake so far, Laurel. Thank you so much for that. In
his office is literally across. His office is beside yours and literally across from your.
I
You could have
could've
just
just
walked in there and
asked.
been like, "What did you send me?"
I know, I should have. I was in a hurry. Do it live, in the immortal words of Bill O'Reilly. I love that video. It's almost as good as the Casey Kasem audio. If you know the Bill O'Reilly video, you better know the Casey Kasem audio.
Michael, tell Amelia happy 6th birthday from us.
Hard you work, and you deserve a little extra cash. Download the WDBO app now so you're ready to get on the payroll payout weekdays at 8, 10, noon, 2, and 5.
Thank you.
Just listen for the WDBO payroll payout keyword and your chance to win $1,000.
The payroll payout.
See official rules in our app. The payroll payout. Get paid just for listening to WDBO. Sponsored by Mark Spain Real Estate.
Hey, don't forget your next chance to win that $1,000 in the WDBO payroll payout is going to be coming up tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. on Orlando's Morning News with Scott Inez. Make sure you're tuning in for that. Let's see. We got to say happy birthday to Amelia. She is 6 today. Happy birthday, Amelia. I hope she's listening to the radio right now. We think she's kind of cool, so happy birthday to her. Okay, so this is interesting. There was an armed robbery at a nursery in Winter Garden over the weekend. It was late Friday night, early Saturday morning. And reading here out of the Orlando Sentinel, it reads in part, 3 armed and masked men entered a nursery and injured 2 security officers before fleeing early Saturday. Officers were called to the nursery on Avalon Road at 3:40 a.m. Saturday after a security officer who was completing his rounds on the property was approached by 3 masked men in blue hoodies. One of the 3 masked men pointed a gun at the security officer. When the officer attempted to pull out his own gun, he was beaten with the gun and thrown to the ground. The security officer was taken to a nearby hospital with lacerations to the ear. And then it goes on. The other security officer also had one of the masked men point a gun at him. As he pulled out his own gun, the armed man ran away. And the article goes on and on and on, and it concludes, the investigation is ongoing. Cops ask anybody with information to call Crime Line. On Sunday afternoon, they did arrest, they've arrested 2 suspects, apparently, at this point. Neither are being cooperative, which is, par for the course, snitches and stitches or something like that. What is really interesting about this is you have to ask yourself, why would 3 armed men put on masks and try to rob a nursery of houseplants at 3:00 in the morning on a Saturday morning? They could have been sleeping in or out partying, but instead they donned masks and brought handguns and tried to rob a nursery. And why does a nursery have armed guards in the middle of the night? And why does the article not mention that the nursery they were trying to rob grows marijuana? It's a marijuana nursery. It's not just a regular houseplants nursery. It's not where you go to get your ficus trees. It's not where you go to get your Man, if I could only name a houseplant. Laurel, quick, name a houseplant.
Roses or
People don't grow
gardenias.
roses in the house.
Snake plant.
A snake plant?
Mother-in-law's tongue. It's the same thing.
Okay. But yeah, so never do they point out. In fact, I saw about 4 or 5 news articles on this today. And out of 4 or 5 news articles, only 2 of them mentioned that it was a cannabis farm. And I always wondered, every time I drive by Knox Nursery in Winter Garden on Avalon Road, I drive by it not too often these days. I don't live in Winter Garden anymore, but when I did, I used to drive by there pretty regularly, and you can smell it. You can smell the weed. The homeowners that live there have been complaining about the noxious smell of weed ever since they started growing it there at Knox Nursery. And I don't know if these news outlets are just covering for the fact that the place is a marijuana farm, if that's like a secret, they don't want it getting out, because all the signs on the outside simply say Knox Nursery. They don't say Knox Nursery Marijuana Farm. They don't say that, but that's what it is. It's a marijuana farm right there on Avalon Road inside those greenhouses. And that is what those armed men were trying to steal early Saturday morning when they got encountered by the armed guards and took off running. 2 of the 3 have been caught. 844-580-WDBO. You can use the open mic and the WDBO app, just sharing some news items with you here this half hour. Coming up, Governor DeSantis really makes it much better and easier to understand this bill that could potentially jail doctors if they perform sex change operations on minors. We'll have that language for you. Coming up next, stay with us on WDBO.
Good evening, 5:30 here at WDBO. Our top story, the Biden administration is proposing rule changes to compensate passengers for flight delays.
Airlines would be required to offer compensation beyond refunds for controllable flight cancellations or significant delays, according to the White House official. Biden and Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg are taking the first step today in the rulemaking process to examine whether airlines must also provide compensation and cover expenses for meals, lodging, and rebooking when they're responsible for stranding passengers. In the meantime, consumers will be able to check the government site flightrights.gov to see what airlines currently offer, which the administration says is not enough. Nicole Diaz, WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580.
The State Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles is facing computer outages.
A tweet from the FLHSMV says the system was experiencing a statewide issue affecting driver's license and motor vehicle systems. Local tax collectors have noted the issue in social media posts. Orange County's tax collector office said customers could experience delays or be required to reschedule their appointments. The department says the matter likely won't be resolved today. Sophie Diaz, WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580.
Remember to have that WDBO app downloaded and ready to go so you don't miss your next chance of winning $1,000 with the WDBO payroll payout coming up tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. It's 5:32 here at WDBO. Yeah, that thing Joe's talking about shut down a bunch of roads. I saw it on my neighborhood thingamabobber. They're like, why is all the road closed? Why is there a helicopter? Everybody's like, I think they robbed the weed place. Great, right? Yeah, who knows why they do it, Beth? Because people are dumb. That seems to be the answer to a lot of things is people are dumb. I was telling the girls that the girls meaning the DS twins that were here. They're not really twins. We just call them twins because they're the same age and they're around all the time together. Anyways, I was at Universal Studios on Sunday and I was getting off of the Gringotts Bank ride. And as we were coming up the tunnel to leave, I was making sure we weren't coming back. We heard yelling, and I'm like, "Oh, do I still hear the ride?" Or Joe's gonna ask me what I'm saying. Hold on, here he comes. I can tell by his face. He's gonna talk. Okay, I was wrong. Anyways, no, look, it's like a terrible game. It's because I have to press a separate button to talk to him, and I'm not doing it. So he's like, "Why can't I hear her?" Anyways, we heard yelling, and I'm like, "Do I still hear the ride? Do they add something to the end of this ride where there's like, like Sirius Black at the prisoners yelling?"
I liked
I
the
don't know.
Fast and the Furious ride. It was kind of cheesy, but I liked it.
No, I hated it. Yeah, I hated it, Michael. I wrote it like once. I swore I never. You interrupted my story. I wasn't telling you the story. I was telling everybody else the story, though. I'll catch you up real quick. I was getting out of the Gringotts Bank ride on Universal, and we heard yelling all of a sudden. I'm like, is that part of the ride? Why am I hearing yelling? So we get up to the end of it, and there's cast members freaking out. And one girl's like hysterical, and she's on the radio, and she's like, he just came in and he started choking us out. He just started choking us out. And we're like, so I minded my business, and I went into the souvenir shop, and we saw security running in. So I don't know what happened, but somebody came in and started attacking cast members. I don't know what he was mad about. I don't know if he had
Just for
too many
clarification's
alcoholic
sake, you were at
butterbeers.
Universal, not Disney, because you're calling them cast members.
Right. So
Employees.
I don't know. I was hoping it got tweeted somewhere, but I haven't done an in-depth dive. I tried to give that to the Diaz twins, and they haven't reported back to me.
Well, your reporter skills obviously kicked in real well to go investigate what was happening.
I wasn't going to go ask the girl in tears what just happened to her.
That's weird. I like Gringotts Bank ride. That's one of my favorites.
I'd subdue them with a wand, Michael. Yeah, mine too. Yeah, it was really good.
I've
until
never ridden
happened. Then
that one that you said you rode finally.
Hagrid?
Yeah, I've never ridden that
Yeah, I
one.
just did yesterday.
It's like a motorcycle, right? Is it like Tron? Or you didn't ride the Tron one?
You don't sit, like you sit on a motorcycle, but not like a motorcycle,
Okay.
though. You just sit in a seat. It's fast, man, though. Woo, I forgot how fast it
Really?
was. And then we started going. I'm like, oh, yeah, this ride's fast.
Amelia invited Jesus into her heart in the Gringotts child swap last month. Wow. You never know where inspiration is going to hit. Wow.
Yeah, I saw that video from your wife, Michael.
That is
was
so
cool.
cute. Huh. I tried that child swap thing once, and they ended up giving me my own kid back, which was terrible. I didn't like that swap at all.
WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Triple Team Traffic.
Got a broken down vehicle, 417 southbound, right before Moss Park Road. The exit ramp right lane is blocked there, and still seeing lots of brake lights on I-4 westbound from Princeton on to the 408, then Sand Lake to 535 and 192 into Champions Gate. This report sponsored by Macy's Backstage. What will you find at Macy's Backstage? Great Mother's Day gifts for $17 and under, like bath and body spa sets, fragrance sets, and more. Perfect for every mom. Find the latest trends and new arrivals at a Macy's Backstage store near you. From the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
Orange, Seminole, Osceola, and all of Central Florida. Join the conversation now by using the open mic in the WDBO app. Now, the Joe Kelley Show on Orlando's News and Talk, WDBO.
Maybe that's why they call it Knox Nursery, because it's noxious.
Huh.
All right, I'll see myself out.
Probably a good idea. Thank you for that open mic. You can leave an open mic. You just open up the WDBO app and look for the open mic button. Tap that, push the open mic button, and then just start talking. Pretty simple stuff. You can call 844-580-WDBO. So Governor Ron DeSantis was at a news conference, and you can just barely understand the question that's being asked of him. And clearly DeSantis wasn't having it anyway, because DeSantis cuts him off mid-question and starts to answer the question. But the question has to do with a new bill. Florida has passed a new bill that makes it illegal to give children hormone and puberty blocking or puberty disrupting drugs. Parents who push gender transition procedures on children could lose custody of their children. Doctors and parents in Florida who push harmful drugs or surgeries on children may soon find themselves in trouble with the state. Governor DeSantis over the weekend.
Cultural issues that really benefit you. Do you think American voters want
how many of these people were paid to come? I mean, like, honestly, it's like, seriously, some of this stuff is just totally manufactured. And when you talk to people, and I know like people in your industry will dress it up with a euphemism and they'll say it's healthcare to cut off the private parts of a 14 or 15-year-old. That is not healthcare. That is mutilation. And so when we're standing up against that, we're protecting these kids. We had Chloe Cole. We've had other people who went through this when they were minors. Now they're older. And it's like the biggest regret of their life. They feel like that they were manipulated. I understand there's some physicians that are very ideological about it. But the fact is, people go through a lot when they're teenagers. You grow out of it most of the time in these situations. 80-90% resolves by the time you get there. Sweden, these European countries that went down this road have done a big U-turn. They said this is not good medical practice. And so they don't do it anymore. So all we're doing is doing what's right. The idea that this would have been something that people would have even been controversial, even like 10 years ago, would not have been something that anybody would have said anything about. And I just think, when you're talking about this stuff, talk about what did the legislature do? The legislature prohibited doing things like double mastectomies. They prohibited doing things, with male private parts that are very graphic.
And I think one of the best ways that Governor DeSantis referred to this is that Florida has passed a bill outlawing doctors from cutting off healthy body parts of children. I thought, man, that is a really good way of putting that, cutting off healthy body parts of children. Though, and I read through all of the notes on this, and I didn't see any kind of exceptions here. But circumcision is still pretty common in the United States. And one could argue that circumcision is the removing of a healthy body part from children. One could argue that circumcision is genital mutilation. So I wonder to what extent, if any extent, this is going to have an effect on circumcisions. Now, as I don't know, society would have it, fate would have it, circumcisions, which used to be pretty normal in the United States, are now not normal in the United States. In fact, evidently, circumcisions are the minority now. It's not the majority of boys who get a circumcision. It is a minority of infants and newborns that get a circumcision. But what do you think about the Florida State Legislature and the governor passing a bill that outlaws doctors from cutting off healthy body parts of children? I mean, when you phrase it that way, it just sounds so logical. It seems to make so much sense. Why would you cut off a healthy body part? Triple team traffic now. We check with PC, Paul Cross.
Well, we've got a stalled vehicle, Joe. It's 417 southbound, right before Moss Park Road. It's just before the exit ramp, and they actually have that exit ramp right lane blocked. And then we're seeing lots of brake lights, I-4 westbound from Princeton onto the 408, Sand Lake to 535, 192 into Champions Gate. Eastbound I-4 bumper to bumper past the Disney exits, then 528 to Sand Lake. You're going to tap the brakes again approaching the turnpike, and then Parr to Lee and 46A to the bridge. From the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic and the WDBO app. Doctors and parents in Florida who push harmful drugs or surgeries on children may find themselves in trouble with the state. This out of the Florida Standard. The Republican-led Florida legislature passes a bill Thursday that prohibits physicians from administering puberty and hormone-distributing drugs or performing sex reassignment surgeries on anybody under the age of 18. Doctors who violate the law would be subject to third-degree felony and could face up to 5 years in prison. I doubt that there are many doctors who would jeopardize their careers and their livelihoods and their education to perform this kind of a surgery. I doubt many doctors are going to take a principled line and say, you know what, I'll do it. I'll do 5 years in prison for this kind of surgery. There might be a couple doctors out there that put their version of principle ahead of this state law, but I would imagine most would fully reject that lest they jeopardize everything in their life that they've worked hard for. Additionally, taxpayer dollars from the state would no longer be allowed to fund sex reassignment surgeries. Well, that's good. That means you're not paying for sex reassignment surgeries. The governor is expected to sign this bill into law. That's not going to be a surprise. According to Ralph Masulo, Republican from Marion County, this is preventing abuse medically and abuse surgically. We don't have the freedom to harm children. One of the co-sponsors of the bill said those people who think that they were born in the wrong body are victims of those who are evil, who prey on them and prey on a mental condition to make money. This is not science, he says. This is a cult that is focused on the abuse of children. What do you think? 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. Or use the open mic in the WDBO app. Coming up here in just a few minutes. Okay, let's start with this. Do you remember the whole deal with Subway sandwiches and the tuna, the fake tuna? So it all stemmed from one woman in California who claims that she has eaten the tuna sandwich or tuna products at Subway hundreds of times before she filed a lawsuit in January 2021. She claims in her lawsuit that there is no tuna in the tuna sandwich at Subway. Now, Subway, for their part, has vehemently pushed back, saying, of course there's tuna in our tuna sandwiches. And they are pretty angry at this woman. Well, this woman has suddenly decided to drop her lawsuit because she says she is pregnant. Does her being pregnant have to do with this lawsuit? Well, she says her severe morning sickness and debilitating conditions as she prepares for a third child have left her unable to proceed with the obligations as plaintiff and require her to focus on her health and family. But Subway says, not so fast, lady, not so fast. They don't want her to just walk away from this thing because they've caused Subway a lot of damage. So the mom wants to dismiss the case in San Francisco federal court without prejudice, which would let her sue again when she feels better. Subway, though, says that the mom's excuse flunks the straight face test, and her lawyers likely realized that it would not simply, or her lawyers rather, realized they would not simply pay the windfall settlement that they had hoped to get by constructing a high-profile shakedown. She says that the media frenzy that the lawsuit triggered caused severe harm. They fault this mom's ever-changing theories to debunk its claim that its tuna sandwiches, salads, and wraps contain 100% tuna. So the chain Subway wants the proposed class action dismissed and her 7 lawyers ordered to pay at least $618,000 of their legal bills. As anybody who even slightly knows me will tell you, I absolutely love the tuna sandwiches at Subway. I have, and I certainly will again eat Subway tuna sandwiches every single day. Every day I have eaten Subway tuna sandwiches. I'm currently not in that pattern. I'm in a different pattern right now. I'm currently eating Wawa roast beef sandwiches, but I could easily go back to my Subway tuna sandwiches. And even when they came out and said it wasn't made of tuna, I'm like, well, I'll be the judge of that. It tastes like tuna. I have no idea. Subway says it's 100% tuna. Others have said that it's not, that it's got other meats in there and stuff as well. Tuna for their, or Subway for their part claims that it's the cooking of the tuna that makes it render its DNA differently. So when you test it for the DNA for tuna, you're not going to find tuna DNA because it's been cooked before it was put in there. I don't know if that is actually a true thing or not a true thing. On Reddit, people are upset at self-checkout stands that now have a tipping option. If you go through a self-checkout, whether it's at Target or Publix or anywhere, if you go through a self-checkout and it asks you for a tip, are you going to tip? Because wouldn't that tip be going to you if you're the one doing the checkout? It seems like our tipping situation has gotten a bit out of hand, especially since the pandemic. Everybody seems to be hitting us up for tips these days. And I know that in the days right in the thick of the pandemic, whenever I was tipping double, triple, quadruple. I mean, I was tipping a lot because I knew how lousy those frontline workers were, the working conditions were for them working in restaurants and stuff like that. So I was tipped particularly high in those situations. But now that the pandemic has officially passed, the World Health Organization says it's gone. The Biden administration says it's gone. The crisis, the emergency is over. I think we could go back to regular tipping these days. 844-580-WDBO or use the open mic in the WDBO app.
Now, WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Triple Team Traffic.
Got a new crash in Orange County. It's on Kirkman Road, southbound at Arnold Palmer Drive. They have the right lane blocked there. Still have that stalled vehicle, 417 southbound before Moss Park Road. They have the exit ramp right lane closed. This report sponsored by GetRefunds.com. Ready to get your business the help it deserves? Find out if it qualifies for ERC assistance in less than 8 minutes. Up to $26,000 per employee could be waiting. Go to GetRefunds.com to get started. From the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
Congratulations to No for winning the WDBO payroll payout of $1,000.
Oh, hell yeah.
Download that WDBO app now so you don't miss your next chance at winning $1,000 with the payroll payout coming up tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Police in Texas are charging the driver of an SUV with manslaughter in a crash that killed 8 people. Brownsville police say the man, who has a lengthy rap sheet, is being held on several felony charges. Police in the Texas border town will not talk about a possible motive or say if the person was impaired at the time of Sunday's deadly crash. The nationwide writers' strike is now in its second week. The work stoppage by thousands of writers, the Writers Guild of America members, impacted its first award show on Sunday night. The MTV Movie and TV Awards aired a pre-taped show rather than the initially planned live ceremony from Santa Monica. Yeah, Patrick, down with Rebels. Frank, no, but I've only heard amazing things, and I super duper want to. It's just we have, I don't know, we have an old Xbox or something. We haven't updated our gaming system, and honestly, Xbox and PlayStation are out of my realm. I was like always a Nintendo person. So if it wasn't on GameCube or Wii or Switch, I don't know how to do it. So I was like, I was telling my husband, you have to upgrade our system so we can play all the Star Wars games. And he hasn't yet, so I blame him. Which really stings because, as many of you know, I'm in the 501st, right? Which means I do charity Star Wars costuming. And my characters, okay, don't tell anybody. The characters I costume, I've never played their games. So I do Iden Versio, who she's from Battlefront, and I've never played that game. I just really liked her costume. I do Juno Eclipse, who's from Force Unleashed, which is an older Star Wars video game. I played parts. I watched my husband play parts of it, and I've never played that game. Terrible. I think it's terrible as a fan to do, but sorry. Really, Frank? That's what I hear. So Ronald, who is one of our producers, he's not here tonight, Randy is. But for those of you who tuned in that one time we had 4 cameras, you saw Ronald. Ronald's a huge Star Wars fan. And before the new Jedi Survivor came out last week, he came to me and he said, have you played the original Jedi, whatever Cal Kestis' first video game is? The name's escaping me. And I said, no. And he goes, oh my gosh, that's better than some of the movies they've released. You've got to play. You've got to play. And so, yeah, I've only heard great things about Jedi Survivor. So I've got to, I stink at play. When I was in high school, I was all about video games. Now, the extent of my video games is I get home from work, my husband cooks me dinner, and I sit on the couch and play Animal Crossing on my Switch. Because it's so brainless. Like, you don't have to actually pay attention to it. And there's like no real goals. And so it's just a de-stressing game for me. But I super want to play and probably need to play in the friend group I'm in, and the groups I'm in. I need to know the characters and stuff. So yeah, PS5, Patrick. Okay, that's the other part is we're like, well, do we get the Xbox or the PS5? What do we do? Which one should we get? So that's good to know. I have to go get more caffeine. I'm tired. I slept for a long time, but I didn't take any coffee today. I just had some caffeinated tea and it was not enough. It's run out. So I have to go get more caffeine. And I can tell I'm dragging because I have all of my big 3s written. They're ready to go, but I keep losing them, which isn't that uncommon, but it's really bad today. I really keep losing the stuff I need. It's not until Randy plays the sounder I'm like, oh, geez, where'd I put it? And I find it on the computer and I look panicked. And the coolest event I've ever done, Patrick. Patrick. I saw Patrick above you, Frank. Frank, you asked the question. We've done the Orlando Magic games. Those are incredibly cool. We did the Tampa Bay Rays games. Those are incredibly cool. We used to do Legoland, and Legoland was amazing because, like, I don't know if you've been to Legoland, but they have like an entrance, and we could get on top of the sign of Legoland and like patrol up there. That was so incredibly cool. I never got to do it because I was always running them. But back when Disney did the Run Disney Star Wars events, we would get up super early and we would be some of the costume characters you could take photos with if you ran the event. I know people love those. Back when Star Wars Weekends was the thing, we marched in a parade there. That was incredibly cool. And then you saw just the charity events ones like Runway for Hope with, you get to interact with these kiddos fighting real hard with cancer and stuff. I mean, those just touch our heart. Those are incredible. It's 86 outside, but it's cold in here, man. They keep these studios cold.
We got a lot of different topics going right now. We're talking about tuna. We're talking about genital mutilation. We're talking about tipping at self-checkout. We're talking about circumcision. We're talking about evidently the writers' strike. We've even got an open mic about the writers' strike here tonight.
Hey, Joe, this writers' strike, it really amazes me that these entertainers cannot ad-lib and come up with anything creative to say. You know what they should do? Try doing a talk show for about 2 hours. Thank you, Joe. You're doing a great job.
Yeah, we don't have writers on our show. Though I will say a couple things about that. One would think that since all of the late night comics started as stand-up comics, you would think that they could write a brief monologue for themselves and then conduct the rest of the show, interviewing their guests and all that kind of stuff. And perhaps maybe there is a late night comic or two that could do that. But the late night comics also have relationships with their writers. And for a lot of these late night comics, they get paid buku bucks. I mean, they get paid tens of millions of dollars a year, whereas their writers don't. They probably make 70, 80, maybe 90 grand a year. So for a lot of the late night talk show hosts, and I don't know which ones could write their own monologue and which ones just simply couldn't. But for a lot of them are canceling their own shows in solidarity for the writers because they belong to similar or the same unions, and they're doing it just as a show of support for their fellow writers. So I'm cutting them a little bit of slack just with that in mind. We'll continue coming up next. Stay with us.
Now, WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Triple Team Traffic.
Still working a crash on Kirkman Road southbound at Arnold Palmer Drive with the right lane blocked. And we're seeing some brake lights into downtown. A lot better than it was just 10, 15 minutes ago. Just a tap of the brakes now as you make your way through downtown on the westbound side.
We remarkably have a lot of comments about circumcision.
Open mics, you mean?
Yeah. If you would have told me when I woke up this morning after I found out I had credit card fraud that I was going to be talking about circumcisions later, I'd be like, why would I be talking about circumcisions later?
What if you had to go to Keith and be like, okay, pitching my topic for the show. Tuna and circumcision.
That's right. Subway tuna and circumcisions. Woo!
But yeah, Patrick, that booth was ours, actually. So all the costumers you saw in that booth and people working, those are all my friends. Those are all my buddies. I was in there for a little bit. I didn't work it this time, but we were there in costume as well. But all the sets, everything was there. My friends made. We just got such talented people. And then we raised something like $10,000 for Give Kids the World. So that was pretty cool. Good evening, 6 o'clock here at WDBO. Make sure that WDBO app is downloaded, ready to go, so you don't miss your next chance at winning $1,000 with the WDBO payroll payout coming up tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. You could get paid just for listening to WDBO. Our top story, President Biden is announcing steps to protect flight passengers, requiring airlines to compensate travelers for flight cancellations and delays, which were rampant over the holiday season and are likely to increase this summer. The president says his top priority is to get American air travelers a better deal.
I know how frustrated many of you are with the service you get from your U.S. airlines, especially after you, the American taxpayer, stepped up in 2020, the last administration, in the early days of the pandemic to provide nearly $50 billion in assistance to keep the airline industry and its employees afloat. I get it.
He says the government is launching a new website to highlight transparency about airlines' compensation policies, such as flight rebookings, hotel accommodations, and meals, announcing additional requirements for airlines to reimburse with cash, miles, and travel vouchers. The White House to veto a House Republican bill aimed at limiting the flow of migrants at the southern border.
The administration says the Secure the Border Act could cut off access to humanitarian protections for migrants. This could make processing less efficient and cut funding for programs that help local governments to deal with incoming migrants. The White House said the bill would make things worse and the president would veto it. This comes days before the end of Title 42 is expected to prompt a surge of migrants. Sophie Diaz, WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580.
One person is dead and another is in the hospital after a car crashed into an Orange County home.
Officials say the driver hit a mailbox, tree, and a light pole before veering into the front porch of a Winter Garden home earlier this morning. The Orange County Fire Rescue says a 71-year-old man inside the home was killed, and the driver was transported to the hospital as a trauma alert. Traffic homicide investigators are on the scene. Nicole Diaz, WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580.
Make sure that WDBO app is downloaded to your phone, ready to go, so you don't miss your chance at winning the payroll payout coming up tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. 6:02 here at WDBO.
Yeah, Patrick. We both have jackets on. It's cold in here. Our rooms aren't set to the same. Laurel, I don't know if your room's as cold as mine, but it's cold out in this room. And so when we walk outside, we're always startled at how hot it is. We're like, damn, it's hot. And then I could just sit in my car. You know, when you sit in your car and you first get in your car after it's hot and you just let it stay hot? That's what I do. I don't even want to turn my air conditioner on until my body warms up.
I totally do the same thing. I'm like, why can't I feel my fingers? Why do you make me big? So I sent a link to Paul for the thing.
So did I.
I don't know if he didn't see it.
I sent him a link also.
Oh, maybe he doesn't want to play today.
Maybe he doesn't like you.
Maybe he doesn't like me. Maybe he doesn't want to be next to my face.
I will say that I'm shaving more often now. Because when I don't shave, my face just looks dirty. I don't have enough.
That's what everybody told me behind your back, so.
Really?
No.
Oh. I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised because I do. I look dirty when I don't shave. I keep thinking one of these days I'm going to be old enough to be able to grow a thick, luscious beard, but I'm 55. So I'm thinking that's not going to happen now. But Frank, if you can grow a beard, we're just jealous, man. And I am the kind of guy that if I see a man with a handsome beard, I will absolutely go up to him and say, dude, your beard is amazing. I mean, I'm just so jelly. Thank you. Thank you, Jude. Hey, Jude. I was listening to Yellow Submarine earlier today. The lyrics of that song are stupid. I don't know how the Beatles are so acclaimed. I mean, We All Live in a Yellow Submarine is so stupid. That's the dumbest song I've ever heard. The Stones at the same time were singing Paint It Black when the Beatles were singing We All Live in a Yellow Submarine.
But it's catchy.
Talk and discussion on the latest breaking national news.
Crude oil prices continue to fall.
Local news.
You're not going to have Disney have its own government in Central Florida.
And stories that matter to you. Use the open mic in the WDBO app and let your voice be heard on the Joe Kelley Show.
Man, if you want to hear something that is embarrassing. So Friday, we told you Friday that Joe Biden had an interview for the first time in 3 months. He had a media interview. It was with MSNBC, and it was set to air at 10 p.m. on a Friday night on Cinco de Mayo. Buried where nobody would see it, nobody would talk about it, nobody would care about it because everybody was out Friday night. Nobody was home at 10 o'clock watching Joe Biden's interview on MSNBC. The total interview was less than 12 minutes long, and he was interviewed by Stephanie Rule. I thought it was Ruley, but I heard her say her name. It was Rule, and it was terrible. I mean, it was there was nothing to be learned there. There were no difficult questions. Joe Biden lied, even if something resembled a real question. This was my takeaway, though. from the interview with Joe Biden on MSNBC. And by the way, Biden kept telling everybody he had a major news conference that he was going to do Friday night. It wasn't a news conference. It was literally a sit-down interview with the friendliest network he could possibly find, MSNBC. And this was one of the questions asked.
Sir, there is something personal that's affecting you. Your son, while there's no ties to you, could be charged by your Department of Justice. How will that impact your presidency?
First of all, my son's done nothing wrong. I trust him. I have faith in him. And it impacts my presidency by making me feel proud of him.
Do you think anybody has told Joe Biden about Hunter Biden's laptop? Do you think anybody has told Joe Biden about Burisma and all of the contacts that Hunter Biden has had? I don't fault Joe Biden for wanting to defend his son. But to say my son's done nothing wrong and I trust him speaks very poorly of Joe Biden. Now, if Joe Biden would have said, look, Stephanie, I love my son so very much. And my son, like me and like everybody, we're all imperfect beings. And have we made mistakes? Perhaps. But at this point, that's all I have to say about it. That and I absolutely love my son, Hunter. Should have left it at that. We could all appreciate a father saying, you know what, I really, really love my son. But to say that he's done nothing wrong is ludicrous. I mean, even if you just look at the pictures on the laptop with the hookers and the cocaine, clearly he's done something wrong. I don't know how you can say he's done nothing wrong. So then ABC News goes apoplectic because they can't get over how bad the polling data is for Joe Biden.
Political Director Rick Klein here to break it down. And Rick, this poll is just brutal for President Biden.
Absolutely, George. And you talked earlier about that record low approval rating for President Biden. It's actually 6 points down just since February. And the skepticism over his leadership extends deep inside his own party. Only 36% of Democrats think that their party should nominate Joe Biden for a second term. 58% say they would support someone else or prefer someone else. That's despite the fact that the entire DNC, most of the Democratic establishment, has rallied behind President Biden. And you're seeing real weaknesses in the coalition that powered Joe Biden to the presidency back in 2020. Biden carried independents by 13 points against Donald Trump. He is now trailing Trump by 9 points among those same voters. He carried black voters by 75 points in 2020. Now he is up just 35. That may sound like a lot, but the fact of the matter is, in modern politics, that is not the kind of number that a Democrat needs to be victorious. And then, of course, that does spill over into the head-to-head matchup, the hypothetical rematch, Trump versus Biden. Right now, a 7-point edge in our poll in Trump leading Biden. And in fact, it's an identical number with Ron DeSantis in a head-to-head that might happen next November. That tells us at this very early stage, George, that this race is shaping up a lot more about the incumbent president, Joe Biden, than it is about any of his challengers.
And Rick, as I mentioned with Senator Langford, President Trump, at least right now, appears to be strengthening his hold on his front runner status for the Republican nomination.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We've seen Donald Trump's numbers go up in the last couple of months across a range of polls, and most of the other candidates either going down or staying around the same. Ron DeSantis at 20%. Of course, that is not even half Trump's total right now. Everyone else in the single digits. That includes our ABC News contributor, Chris Christie, who's considering a run of his own. He's at 1% in this poll. And when we ask people to focus in on the top candidates, to choose just among the top contenders, you actually see Trump's number go up a little bit. Ron DeSantis does as well, but still, he's nowhere near where Donald Trump is across the country. The other candidates, again, still in the mid or low single digits. And this is interesting because despite all of that, despite the strength that we're seeing for Donald Trump right now, a strong majority of Americans think he should be facing criminal charges across a range of investigations, including on this one. 56% say that he should face charges over his attempts to overturn the 2020 election. What's interesting to me about this, George, is that even among that 56%, the people that think that, yes, Trump should face criminal charges, 18% say they would vote for Donald Trump over Joe Biden anyway. That tells you a lot about Trump's potential strength, but maybe more than that, some of Biden's weaknesses. And that question of age that you mentioned earlier that Joe Biden has been trying to address. Donald Trump is less than 4 years younger than Joe Biden, but the concerns over Biden's age are much more significant. 68% of voters say they think that Joe Biden is too old for an additional term. Only 44% say the same about Donald Trump.
Rick, I got to admit, I have a hard time wrapping my head around that. You've got 1 in 5 people who say they believe President Trump should face criminal charges, but they still vote for him.
It is remarkable, and I do think once there's a matchup with an actual person, maybe that changes, but that just tells you about how much Trump is kind of baked into the political equation.
Boy, there's one thing that Donald Trump said early on in the campaign, and it just has stuck in my head the whole time. When Donald Trump said he could walk out on Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody in the head and still get elected, and while he's not being accused of anything that terrible, even, facing potential criminal charges and with an indictment, twice impeached, and all the other baggage that comes with Donald Trump, people sure do seem to still love him. There is no two ways about that. You can share your thoughts right now at 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. Or use the open mic in the WDBO app. If you're just joining us, we've been talking about a variety of things here tonight. We were talking about the woman who is filing the lawsuit against Subway about the tuna sandwiches. She wants to drop the suit because she's pregnant. She wants to focus on having a baby rather than claiming that Subway doesn't actually use tuna in their sandwiches.
I don't know how they do things now, but I worked at Subway several years ago, and they absolutely did use tuna in their subs. It was actually star-kissed tuna. So you can go back to eating your tuna sandwiches and feel safe about it.
That sounds good. But of course, Laurel, that reminds me of the incident that happened with the tuna canning place. Was that star-kissed, or was that which one is the little fish mascot?
That's Starkist.
That's Starkist?
Yeah, and
I think it was Starkist, wasn't it?
I think it was Starkist.
So there was an incident a few years ago in California where Laurel's already shaking her head. No, don't repeat the story. It's terrible. It is terrible. It is. So I'm trying. I shouldn't smile. I like to smile when I'm on the radio. Let me hang on. Okay, there we go. I'm not smiling now. A few years ago, there was a dude who was sent into one of the steaming devices at the Starkist tuna plant in California. And unbeknownst to someone else, someone closed the door on the steaming device and turned it on with a dude in the tuna steamer. So his body was cooked like the tuna would be in the steam. They didn't can him or anything like that. I mean, it didn't go that far, fortunately. I think they canned, as in fired, the other people, but the tuna company lost a lot of money in a lawsuit from that one. Oddly, we're also talking about circumcision tonight. We've really got a wide range of topics here tonight. We bring up circumcision because the Governor DeSantis now says that with this new bill here in Florida, outlaws doctors from cutting off healthy body parts of children. So I just wondered out loud, does that include circumcision? Because in circumcision, you're cutting off an otherwise healthy part of a human body.
Joe Kelley, circumcision is not the removal of a body part. A circumcision is the removal of a piece of skin that can prevent
I'm sorry.
infections.
I'm sorry.
Prevent
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Are you woman-splaining to me what circumcision is? You're assuming that I don't know? I'm a man. I know what circumcision is. I'm well aware. Thank you.
You got a couple of things for me to talk about here, Joe.
All right.
First, I have to say I love your show.
Thank you.
I love that you're on 2 hours. Love you. Second, 14, 15-year-old cannot make those kind of decisions. Our brain's not even formed till we're 25. They need to be at least 18, and I was even older to make a decision like that. And Subway tuna sandwiches rock.
Woo! Yeah, I'm with you on that one. They absolutely do. They do rock. Yeah, if we won't let teenagers in Florida get a tattoo, what is the minimum law for getting a tattoo, Laurel? You're our chief tattoo correspondent. Isn't it 18 to get a tattoo?
It is 18, yes.
Yeah, if getting a tattoo is too intrusive, too much, too permanent for a child to get, then wouldn't cutting off their body parts also be too permanent.
Great job, Ronnie D. These Democrat doctors that are mutilating these kids are no different than the Nazis that were experimenting on Jews back in World War II. Lock them all up. Good job, Ron.
Ron, of course, referring to our governor. I'm always uncomfortable comparing things to Nazis and Hitler. That always makes me uncomfortable. I don't know that doctors are experimenting quite the way that Nazis did. So I that always strikes me as a bit extreme.
In my personal opinion, I don't think any parent or physician should be allowed to medically mutilate a child. It is not healthcare, it is mutilation. If you are perfectly healthy, you should leave your body intact the way it was meant to be.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, I agree with that. I think a lot of people do. I've heard those talking points multiple times. You can join the discussion at 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic and the WDBO app. Don't forget your next chance to win $1,000 in the WDBO payroll payout is coming up tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. on Orlando's Morning News with Scott Inez. You don't want to miss that out tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. And you absolutely must download the WDBO app for your chance to win. If you've not played yet, you still have plenty of opportunities to play and plenty of chances to win. But you must download the WDBO app first. You can download it from your Google Play Store. You can download it from the App Store. It's a completely free app. You're going to find a button in the app on the main page that says payroll payout. And then when we give the keyword, like at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, you just type that, you go to that page where it says payroll payout and type in what the keyword is, and boom, you're entered to win $1,000. It is that simple. So check it out today. 844-580-WDBO or use the open mic and the WDBO app.
Now, WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Triple Team Traffic.
Got a crash on the 528 westbound ramp to McCoy Road. The off-ramp right lane is blocked. Another crash on the Turnpike southbound before OBT. It's on the right shoulder now. Got a wreck in Seminole County of 1792 at 434 and a crash on Kirkman Road southbound at Arnold Palmer Drive with the right lane shut down. This report sponsored by Audible. Ignite your imagination with Audible. It's the home of storytelling with audiobooks, podcasts, exclusive originals, and more, all in one place. Sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com. From the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
Now, the three big things you need to.
President Biden will talk to the president of Mexico Tuesday ahead of the end of Title 42. The Mexican president said the two will hold discussion over the phone about immigration and fentanyl trafficking. Both countries are bracing for the effects on migration following the end of Title 42. President Biden is standing firm in his demand Congress pass a clean debt ceiling bill. Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said the president will make clear to Speaker McCarthy lawmakers must pass an increase of the nation's borrowing limit without conditions when the leaders meet Tuesday. She accused House Republicans of manufacturing a crisis to secure deep spending cuts. It's a lackluster start to the week on Wall Street. Stocks traded in a narrow range as investors await key inflation data, beginning with the midweek release of April's Consumer Price Index. The Dow Jones Industrial Average lost 55 points to 33,618.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, yay. Hey, you can be 16 or 17 to get a tattoo as long as your guardian or parent is with you. I just looked that up because I remember my daughter, when we were raising her, she had 16-year-old friends that got tattoos, and I didn't know how they got them. But you can get one at 16 or 17 as long as your parent or guardian is with you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think the back of my brain knew that somewhere. But yeah, thanks for confirming that, because that sounds right.
Yeah, I thought it was 18, but then that's something. I thought all these kids that were at Seminole High School, have they all been breaking the law, just getting it done and lying? And these tattoo parlors, man, they're going to be on the hook for this. But no, I guess their parents were with them, and that's how they did it. So anyway, just figured I'd pass that little nugget along. And I'm doing a lot of different radio stations and all over the state and newscasts. So I'm doing news in Jacksonville. So that's why I wasn't on the camera the first hour. Just too much stuff.
Oh, okay. We
Sorry.
just thought you didn't want to play with us today, so we weren't going to
No,
blame you.
I love to play with you guys every day, but sometimes I'm thrown additional things at me, and it's really, I got too much going on. Again, doing the news and traffic and in Miami, Orlando, Jacksonville, Palm Beach. I'm doing them all over the place. So if it was real, I would look like The Exorcist. My head would be spinning, you know?
Oh my gosh, that's nuts.
Yeah, it is. Better to be busy than bored, I guess. Anyway,
that's true.
Good talk, Rusty.
Frank, that's funny. A steamy situation. Oh my gosh. That's terrible. You and your puns, sir. Joe didn't warn me we're going to talk about circumcision during this show, so I'm just as surprised as you all are, to be fair.
Yep. It's always a good day when we talk about circumcision here on WDBO.
Particularly switching between tuna sandwiches and circumcision.
Yeah, right. WDBO, oh my gosh.
So do you want to hear about how the other guy died? What about the Asian lady in the water tank? Do you remember that one?
She's like famous now, though. Everybody knows her.
I remember all the gruesome deaths.
I don't know that everybody knows that everybody was drinking the water.
It was gruesome how it was discovered. People were brushing their
that's
teeth.
what I was just saying. I don't think everybody knows about the water. Like that they were drinking.
So there was a fancy schmancy hotel somewhere in like Beverly Hills, right? Wasn't it like Beverly Hills? And some of the guests at this hotel had complained that their water tasted funny and it had a weird color and everything to it.
Get paid just for listening to WDBO.
This is awesome.
Hey, do you remember last week, Laurel? I know you remember last week, right? And Paul, you remember last week?
Vaguely.
Vaguely, yeah, I'll do the vaguely.
Do you remember last week when some guy left an open mic and we could hear the water sprinklers in the background?
Yeah.
Yeah, he left another open mic. Take a listen. Isn't that great? Oh, nice. I love that. All right, we've got a lot of topics going here tonight, not the least of which we're talking about the writers' strike that's going on.
Hey, Joe, so I wanted to tell you, my brother's a writer, and he writes for NCIS. And I can tell you, he makes a lot of money per week. In terms of the comedian writers, I don't know, maybe they do only make $80,000, but I can tell you he makes way more than that. So it'd be interesting to know what writers make. Anyway.
Yeah, I had a friend who was a contract writer for Jay Leno back in the day, and he was a contract, not a staff writer, so he got paid per joke that he wrote, and he would submit jokes, and I just as a contract writer, he did not get paid a whole lot of money. We're also talking about genital mutilation. God, what a weird topic to be talking about, and what a weird segue to go from the sprinkler head guy to genital mutilation. I just love the way that the governor now puts this, saying that it is against the law in the state of Florida to cut off healthy body parts from children. Now, my only question about it was circumcision, as to whether or not circumcision would fall into that category. I can't think of a comparable procedure for young girls, right? It's just young boys that are subject to this. So young boys and circumcision.
Hey, Joe, the circumcision thing, I don't think it's gender mutilation.
Genital.
I think it's more of a hygiene thing. But I know people are not men are not uncircumcised and they're fine, but there is also religion involved with it. But,
True.
you know, I don't think it's gender mutilation.
It is remarkable how many times the word circumcision appears in the Bible. It is, in fact, I've been stunned at times reading the Bible to see how much it focuses, or certain chapters, certain books focus on circumcision. But it certainly does happen there from time to time. The Texas shooter. So over the weekend, a shooter at a mall in Plano, Texas. I've been to that shopping center in Plano, Texas. It's just north of Dallas. And the suspect, 33-year-old Mauricio Garcia. Have we learned whether or not both suspects in the Texas incidents, the shooting and the driving the vehicle over some undocumented immigrants, have we learned whether or not the suspects are actual American citizens? I think it is going to be likely that they may not be, and regrettably, the media is not going to report whether or not they're here legally or illegally. But it would be interesting if Mauricio Garcia, who's dead, by the way, he was shot dead by a lone cop that confronted him at the mall before the rest of the cops showed up. He served in the military for a brief period. He was expelled for mental health reasons. He had been terminated, if you will, from the Army. He went into the regular Army in June 2008, terminated 3 months later without completing initial entry training. So that means he washed out before he finished boot camp. He was not awarded a military occupation specialty, or MOS, so he wasn't assigned any kind of an occupation, which is usually the first thing that happens after boot camp. He had no deployments, no awards, but the man was kicked out of the military. It's not clear if it was honorable, dishonorable, or something else. But he was expelled for mental health reasons. Should never have had that gun. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible. 844-580-WDBO, or hit me up in the open mic in the WDBO app.
This is WDBO.
WDBO.
107.3 FM and AM 580. Orlando's news and talk. And where Orlando turns first for breaking news, weather, and traffic 24 hours a day. Listen on the WDBO app at WDBO.com. Ask Alexa to play WDBO and on the HD2 of 96.5.
6:30 here at WDBO. Remember to have that WDBO app downloaded so you don't miss your next chance at winning $1,000 with the WDBO payroll payout coming up tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. You could get paid just for listening to WDBO. Our top story, President Biden says the government is launching a new website, flightrights.gov, to highlight transparency about airline compensation policies as one of the steps he's announcing to protect flight passengers.
If it's the airline's fault and your flight was canceled or delayed, you can check the dashboard to see how the airline should be compensating you, like rebooking a flight or accommodating your hotel room and your meals.
Added the announcement of new requirements for airlines to reimburse air travelers with cash, miles, and travel vouchers. It follows a holiday season fraught with cancellations and delays, and as airlines face more pressure from summer travel. Millions of dollars head to Floridians as part of a settlement with TurboTax.
TurboTax and its owner Intuit faced allegations that it charged people for services that should have been free. Attorney General Ashley Moody says restitution checks are in the mail today.
Through a multi-state action against the company, our office obtained more than $10 million for Floridians who used Intuit's tax preparation products.
Moody says eligible consumers will be notified through email and then receive a check in the mail automatically without having to file a claim.
Coming soon, eligible consumers of Intuit's TurboTax Free Edition prep service will automatically receive a direct payment.
Sophie Diaz, WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580.
Americans consumed 400% more hot sauce during the pandemic. Bray Tennis has more on why that may actually be a good thing.
The National Library of Science says hot sauce reduces swelling, lessens arthritis, and can make your toothache go away. It's the capsaicin that does it. That's that chemical compound that makes the pepper hot, and that's what you want. The American Heart Association says capsaicin can help you lose weight because it speeds metabolism. It can improve your heart health and reduces stress and anxiety. And doctors say there's no such thing as too much hot sauce. I'm Bree Tennis, NBC News Radio.
Make sure that WDBO app is downloaded so you don't miss your chance of winning $1,000 with the WDBO payroll payout. Your next chance coming up tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. at 6:32 here at WDBO. Yeah, Karen, Guardians of the Galaxy. That's a good ride. And what's funny is that my husband normally doesn't get motion sick on anything. I can't do teacups. A lot of spinning, I'm done for. But Guardians bothers him. He can ride it once and then he can't outride it again. I don't know if it's like the screens plus the spinning and the moving, but he can't do all of it. Yeah, it is super good. It is super good. I, of course, am partial to the Star Wars stuff, but that's second in line for sure. Did you actually get warm? Hold on, he's muted.
I had to take my coat off. I was getting warm.
I wish my studio was as warm as yours. It's cold
I don't think
in
my
here.
studio changed temperature. I think I changed temperature.
Oh, okay.
My poor wife, every night I go through this hot flash at night, and it doesn't matter if it's 30 degrees outside or 90 degrees outside. I go through this hot flash every night. I don't know what it is about my metabolism, but about the time I lay down in bed, I start getting so hot, and I always turn on the ceiling fan, and bless her heart, she'll put on a hoodie and sweatpants, and I feel so bad, but it's like one of us is going to be miserable. Menopause, yes, that's what I have. And I always tell her, I say, look, if you get up in the middle of the night to use the restroom or do whatever, feel free to turn the fan off, because at that point, if I'm asleep, I won't notice. And then every now and again in the morning, like neither one of us will want to get out of bed. It's like, it's cold. I'm like, because the ceiling fan's still on.
You need like a remote one or like one you can use an app with. Yeah, clapper thing.
Do they still have clappers?
I think so.
Probably at the stores was as seen on TV or whatever you can get those.
Yeah, Paul says like where they have the as seen on TV stuff. Probably. That's ingenious, man. We need those for the lights because half the time I'll be in bed and then he gets in bed and he's like, shut off the light.
My hands hurt now. You know, you can get smart light bulbs that you can tell your Alexa or Google to turn on and off for you. I have those. I just don't have them wired in right. I don't have them. Actually, they're not. There's no wiring them in. You just screw them in. I just need to set them up in my app.
Yeah, that's as far as it'd go in my house too, which is why I haven't suggested it because I don't know how to do it at all. And I tell him and he'd be like, cool. And then he'd go and then it wouldn't
Because you can walk into your house and say, turn on the kitchen lights, turn on the Christmas lights, turn off the porch lights, turn on the TV. You can walk in and say, turn on the TV to channel NBC or ABC or whatever.
My friend has a full built R2D2, and I don't think he has Alexa, he has Google Home, but he made it R2D2. So he says, R2D2, turn on my TV. And it goes, boop, 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 and it turns on his TV. I'm so jealous.
Wow.
Have a good dinner, Frank.
Have a good dinner, Frank. And a cigar. Woo. The final scene in the Carousel of Progress. I haven't been on the Carousel of Progress in a hella long time.
Alex roasted me because I don't like that ride, and apparently everybody else does. And so he put on Facebook, Laura doesn't like Carousel of Progress, and I got roasted from everyone.
I've got to express my ignorance here. Is that not the ride that's inside Epcot's globe? That's not what that is?
That's Spaceship Earth. Carousel of Progress is in the future area of Magic Kingdom. It's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow.
I don't think I've ever been through there.
You don't need to.
It was cool back in the 70s.
Yeah, in the 70s.
Now, WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Triple Team Traffic.
Got a crash on 434 eastbound at 1792. They have the right turn lane blocked. Another crash on the 528 westbound ramp to McCoy Road. The off-ramp right lane is closed there. And then a crash on the turnpike southbound before OBT. It's now been pushed to the right shoulder. This report sponsored by Mattress Firm. Shop Mattress Firm's Memorial Day sale. Get a king for the price of a queen plus a free adjustable base on select mattresses. And from the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
In-depth segments on topics that matter to Orange, Seminole, Osceola, and all of Central Florida. The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.
I love your show every night. You're doing great, bud.
844-580-WDBO. Let's go to Mark in Orlando. You're on WDBO. Hi, Mark.
I didn't think I'd be on this quick, but just real quick, the writer's strike. I have a daughter in the industry out in L.A., and it goes beyond the writers. It's really dealing with more of the streaming adjustment and the fact that a lot of the corporations have relegated it to new technology, even though it's been around for like 10 or 15 years.
Yeah,
and as such, they're paying a lot of the specialties, including the actors and the writers and the all the background folks, according to new technology standards, which essentially saves them a ton of money.
Yeah, look, Mark, I don't think I think people are pretty sympathetic with the writers because you're absolutely right. All these networks and movie studios have opened up all these other platforms for them to make money off of their television shows and movies, but the writers have not been compensated for the extra revenue streams that have been developing through these motion picture companies. So I hope that you said it was your daughter. I hope they're able to get what they want.
Yeah, the writers. She's not a writer exactly, but the writers are the lead right now because it's the whole industry that's got an issue on the working side.
Yeah,
the actors, the directors, the producers.
Yeah, I think I lost you there, Mark. But yeah, I totally, absolutely understand. I know what you're talking about there, and I do hope that the writers and the rest of them get what they earn, get what they deserve, get a pay increase that is relative to how much the motion picture companies are making these days.
For the genital mutilation, can we link it maybe to the circumcision part? To maybe a haircut, because you're cutting off healthy hair potentially, and you're just you can take it from there.
Yeah, thanks for not further explaining that. I don't know, cutting your hair versus cutting off a part of your penis. That doesn't seem the same to me. That seems different. And by the way, I'm not arguing. I am not arguing against circumcision. I'm simply pondering that by the definition of what the governor has said, which I love, I love the way it's being phrased now. It makes so much more sense to say that that the bill outlaws doctors from cutting off healthy body parts of children. I think that's a great way to make it relatable to everyday people. Why would you cut off healthy body parts from children? And I simply pondered as to whether or not circumcision would fall into that category. And it's not been in any of the articles that I have read about it. So I just don't know. So do you know the women's apparel brand Anthropology? Laurel, are you aware of that brand? Am I saying it right? Anthropology?
Yeah, you're saying it right. I know of it. I don't have anything from there, but I know of it.
So I guess it's a women's clothing brand. They've got mall stores and stuff like that. Well, they have launched an ad campaign of a male model dancing around in various dresses and other articles of clothing that are explicitly meant for women. And would you believe that people are pissed off about this? And it's not conservatives who are leading the anger train here. It's women. Women are angry. According to EV Magazine, Anthropology responded to overwhelmingly negative backlash by disabling and deleting all the comments on the post from Anthropology on their social media post. I think it was an Instagram post. So they obviously would not delete and disable glowing comments. So it stands to reason that the backlash on their Instagram account caused them to disable the comments. So now women are commenting on other anthropology Instagram posts to let them know they're not interested in seeing dudes in dresses. What kind of company would think, let's put a dude in a dress, that's our market audience? I just really think that a lot of these companies misunderstand the marketplace. They don't understand their own audience. They don't understand their own market. And another perfect example, to go back to Bud Light. I try very hard to not engage in schadenfreude. You guys know what schadenfreude is? It's a German word, taking pleasure in other people's pain. I've tried to not revel in Bud Light making such a catastrophic mistake as they did with the TikTok trans star Dylan Mulvaney. But Bud Light, I can't help but to laugh. Bud Light is digging their hole even deeper. Bud Light, they're nowhere near getting out of the hole because they're still digging the hole. Bud Light is facing boycotts from both sides of the political spectrum after teaming up with trans influencer Dylan Mulvaney. So conservative beer drinkers blasted Bud Light for partnering with Mulvaney, celebrating her 365 days of girlhood. Now, gay bars in Illinois are boycotting Bud Light for not supporting Mulvaney enough. Oh my gosh, Bud Light cannot win in this situation. They have dug their holes so deep, they can't even find the shovel anymore. Following the backlash to the transgender partnership, Bud Light's CEO, Brendan Whitworth, issued a milquetoast statement saying, "We never intended to be part of a discussion that divides people. We're in the business of bringing people together over a beer. My time serving this country taught me the importance of accountability and the values upon which America was founded: freedom, hard work, and respect for one another." So that non-apology apology was not enough for conservatives, but it was too much for the LGBTQ community. So the Two Beers Tavern Group, which owns 4 LGBTQIA plus establishments in Chicago, declared on Friday that they're discontinuing all Anheuser-Busch InBev products as a result of the brewers' now anti-transgender actions and statements. They absolutely cannot win now. Budweiser, Anheuser-Busch, they've infuriated the right. They have infuriated the left. They have infuriated women. They have infuriated the LGBTQ community. Honestly, at this point, they ought to just shut down Bud Light, relabel it something new, call it something all new, put it in a new can with a new name, and nobody will know the difference. Bud Light, at this point, seems like they're toast. What do you think? 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326, or use the open mic in the WDBO app. We'll continue next.
Now, WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Triple Team Traffic.
Got a new crash now on Colonial at Econ Trail. Another wreck, 434 eastbound at 1792 with the right turn lane blocked. And then a crash on the 528 westbound ramp to McCoy Road. I'm looking at it on the camera here. It involves a box truck, and they have the right lane closed at the exit ramp toll plaza. This report sponsored by Summit Racing. Summit Racing keeps your road trip ready with millions of in-stock parts from all the best brands. Summer travel starts at summitracing.com. Everything you need for anything you drive. From the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
Now, the 3 big things you need to know.
The Trump civil rape trial is wrapping up. The jury is expected to start deliberating tomorrow. Columnist E. Jean Carroll is accusing Trump of raping her in a New York City department store in the 1990s and then defaming her years later. Two. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office could present details to a grand jury in the chokehold death of a homeless man on a city subway. A week ago, former Marine Daniel Penny put Neely in a chokehold on the subway after witnesses say Neely was acting erratically and making threats. Penny's attorney said Daniel never intended to harm Mr. Penny. One. Two crucial Game 4s are on the NBA playoff schedule tonight. In the first game of the evening, the New York Knicks will look to take a commanding 3-1 lead on the Miami Heat. Later tonight, the Los Angeles Lakers will visit the Golden State Warriors.
Okay, listen up. Are you listening? So someone on the open mic just used the word clitoris. And so my first thought was, is that pronounced right? Is that the proper way to say that word? And she made it in the context of circumcisions, obviously. And even in a clinical discussion about this, it is not illegal to play that word on the radio. That I know for sure, but I think it's ill-advised. Daddy, I just heard this word on the radio. What's a clitoris? I don't know. So I think I'll leave that up. Because then I thought about bleeping it, but then if I bleep it, that won't make any sense. Because people are like, what? What did she say? What did she say? But she said, basically, and I think I disagree with the premise of it, but she says that, what about the practice of Muslims cutting off their daughters' clitorises? And I don't know that that's, I know that female genital mutilation is a thing, but I think it's primarily in other countries. I don't think that happens in the United States. And if it does, it doesn't happen on certainly on the scale that circumcisions do with boys. Anyway, is it clitoris? Is that how you say it? We really have a different discussion on this chat group than we do on the air. We should make this a pay-per-view.
You know what's weird is that those of you who are watching, Joe cannot hear me at all. Laurel can hear me, but Joe cannot hear me.
And that puts me in such a weird position.
I'm sorry, Laurel.
No, he didn't even know what.
I'm sure everybody's watching is looking at you when I say that.
Yeah, well, our viewership just went up. They're even commenting, yes, that's how you say it. Okay, Chris, thank you for that.
Yeah, Chris with the assist here.
Yeah. See, now 9 people. See, we went from 8 to 9, 9 to 8. We just keep saying that word, and maybe we'll get up to the double digits here for our first.
Yeah, that's how sex sales works, right, Paul?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Okay, we moved to bugs. Are you going to eat those, Joe? Joe, are you going to eat the bugs now?
I can't hear Joe.
We can't hear you. What'd you do?
I turned off my mic. Sorry. No, I'm not going to eat them tonight.
So he got them? He got the bugs that he sent away for?
Yeah, Paul, he ordered June bugs. I don't know why.
Yeah,
I
know. I know he ordered them, and he was trying to get us to eat them.
Not we, Joe. Not we. No.
No, we.
So
yeah, let's talk about the rides again, right, Karen?
So someone in this thread, I'm not going to call out a name, but someone in this thread just sent me a private message telling me how it's spelled, the word, and defines what it is. I don't need that. I don't need that information. I know what it is. I don't want to talk about this anymore.
It's
We're gonna
your
edit all of
show.
this out in post-production.
Yeah, right.
I know there's only like 10 people in the chat right now, but y'all are missing a show on the WDBO Facebook page. We do a really different show during the commercial breaks than we do when we're on the air, and things get a little saucy. We don't have the FCC regulations in the chat that we do when we're on the air. Hey, guys, do you guys remember Friday? I love asking those questions. Do you guys remember Friday? Right? You do, right? So do you remember Friday we were talking about eating bugs and how people are trying to all the ne'er-do-wells, all the do-gooders are saying we should have more bugs in our diet, more bugs, as if we're eating bugs currently. Any bugs that we're eating now is purely accidental and not deliberate. Well, Friday, as we were on the air, I went ahead and ordered some bugs. I ordered some bugs. And I honestly, I read the reviews. I read the Amazon reviews on the bugs. And I was going to order the tarantula, the edible tarantula, but it was literally one tarantula per bag. And it was $24 for one tarantula. And I thought, I'm not spending 20. And then someone said that it still had the fangs on the front of it. And I'm like, I am not eating something that has tarantula fangs on it. And then someone wrote that because they have hairy legs, because they're hairy, that you can, it's like eating hair. You're tasting hair, which that to me, I'm like, okay, that's gross. We're done. We're done here. That's disgusting. I don't want to eat a bug, A, and I certainly don't want to eat a hairy bug. So I did not order the tarantulas, but I did order a bag of June bugs. Ready to eat June beetles seasoned with salt. No artificial colors or preservatives, boiled and dehydrated, not fried. No MSG. The ingredients are June bugs and salt. That's it. June bugs and salt. Allergy advice, crustaceans. If you're allergic to crustaceans, you probably won't do well with June bugs. So at some point, and we're thinking Friday, we're all going to get into the same studio and eat out of the bag of June bugs. Laurel, what are you saying?
No.
Paul,
And thank goodness I'm at home.
You're down for this, aren't you, Paul?
Oh, heck no.
Really?
No, I'm not going to eat anything. What? Two ingredients, salt and June bugs?
Yes. That's it. You like salt, don't you?
Yeah, well, there's another part of that that I don't really care for.
Randy, are you down? Are you going to be eating June bugs with us?
No.
With
I
us?
can eat shellfish, so I'm going to use that as an excuse.
Oh, hang on. Is
Me
that
too. I'm also
Oh, come
incredibly.
on.
Yep, can't eat shellfish. That's it. Done.
All of you
I'm all done.
guys just developed shellfish allergies?
Brand new.
Absolutely. I'll even get a doctor's note now. I'll pay my doctor to give me that note.
This is crazy. I cannot. I'm mortified. Well, I'll be eating them by myself unless I too suddenly develop a shellfish allergy. But hang on, we'll open up these June bags live on the radio. June bugs, June bags, June bug bag live on the radio next week or later this week. My name is Joe Kelley. Coming up next, it's Fox. Nope. Coming up next, it's the third hour of the Sean Hannity Show. That's next here on WDBO.
Got a new crash there on Colonial at Econ Trail, and they're still working that, so watch for first responders there. Also a crash 434 eastbound at 1792 with the right turn lane blocked, and still monitoring that wreck that we have on the right shoulder and part of that right lane. This is involving a box truck. It's on the 528 westbound ramp to McCoy Road. ProTech Air Conditioning and Plumbing Service for honesty, integrity, and 100% customer satisfaction. Call ProTech 407-291-1644 or visit protechac.com. From the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
Have to have Paul and Laurel. You need to hear this. Are you listening? Okay, so we're experimenting with something with the show that you may not be aware of.
It's fine. He's coming back. He just told me that. What are we experimenting with?
Did you hear that little sounder just now? The toot, 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 toot. We are trying to find a way to automate these 2 hours to the podcast, so it won't require any post-show editing. But we need a little sounder upon which we can put a silent tone to trigger the edits. So that's why you're going to hear some extra sounds. That goes for our listeners too. But they should be non-invasive. It shouldn't be that big of a deal. But there's little sounders we're adding purely as cue points for automatic editing of the podcast. So there you go.
Roger.
TIL. Paul, Laurel, great job, everybody. Thanks for watching, y'all. And we'll see you back here tomorrow, 5 to 7. Thank you.